Hello and welcome to the Divisive Issues July Patreon Extravaganza. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sly.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Daryl.
And we're here at what is the beginning of the July Patreon drive to try to get more money out of people.
Extract our fans for
Yes.
what all they're worth.
So we're going to do something special that we've only done in a vague, ambiguous sense, and we're going to take a request from a Patreon backer. The time we came closest was when John suggested just general Lois Lane shenanigans, but now we're going to take a specific issue suggested by Superfan Tracy, Doom Patrol, issue 89.
Thank you,
the
Tracy.
first appearance of everybody's favorite villain, the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man.
He's the guy in Infinity War?
Yes, yeah, he's the guy from the end of Infinity War.
He is purple.
Now, this, I was very excited because Doom Patrol is one of my favorite Silver Age books.
Yes.
And, yeah, I hate you guys.
So when Ryan
And
said
then-
this, I wanted to kill myself after reading
And then I read this issue and I was like, this issue's a pretty regular issue. It doesn't really have a lot of what I love about the Doom Patrol.
Yeah, Doom Patrol is my favorite DC book for sure. But
I hate you guys. Yeah, I said I wanted to kill myself. I actually want to kill you.
from
My
the
bad.
Silver Age, I forgot this issue existed because it's more of the cover became a meme because the cover is silly because his name is Animal Vegetable Mineral Man, but the actual story is very very standard for a superhero story.
There are a couple little things in it that I like, but we'll get to that. in a second.
I don't want to be mean to Tracy. Thank you for helping us out here and being a supporter and everything. But this guy, other than his very long name and how goofy he looks, he's like half dinosaur, half man, half tree branch and stuff. He's just a nothing character. This was a nothing comic.
His powers can be like made into a movie today, but
Sure, but then it's like he could just be like anything, man.
yeah, exactly.
That's kinda
It's
what he was.
like you could be a villain for any team for any decade and it'll work.
This whole thing, like when I was reading it, like even though I don't know Doom Patrol, everything just felt so perfectly substitutable for like everything else that was happening in this era. Like this was Fantastic Four, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. Or if this
Yeah.
was like the Avengers.
Also,
I'd be like,
I thought Doom Patrol were bad guys.
No.
No.
Just that name.
You're
Doom
thinking of
Patrol.
Doctor Doom.
I know
I
Doctor
think
Doom.
it's Suicide Squad. I don't know.
So, one thing I want to point out is even though this is issue 89, it's actually really early in the Doom Patrol's history because they were in a book called My Greatest Adventure and debuted in issue 80, and then they became so popular by the 7th or 8th issue that they took over the book. So, even though this is issue 89, it's really only their 9th or 10th story.
Yes.
is there anything notable like about them?
Lots.
So, one thing I want
Lost
to point
now.
out first
They're very
is
notable.
this is still by their original creative team, the creative team that created them, Arnold Drake and Bruno Parmigiani? Parmesan?
Don't ask me how to pronounce his name.
Gene Parmesan, how you doing?
Bruno Premiani.
Oh.
Sorry, I
It's
was
very
wrong.
different
But
than Gene
Arnold
Parmesan.
Drake is important because he also has a history with the X-Men.
Yes.
And Doom Patrol and the X-Men have an interesting parallel, right?
Yeah.
Sylvester?
Yeah, the X-Men are rip-off of Doom Patrol, straight up.
Oh.
They released a few months. Doom Patrol came out a few months before X-Men.
Now, there has been some back and forth between comic historians like us that some people say that the issues came out too close together, that it just was a similar idea that happened to come out at the same time, but I'm of the mind that I think Stan Lee was like, I could do this too.
Yeah, and Doom Patrol is way better than Stanley's X-Men. X-Men doesn't actually get good until Arnold Drake crossed over to Marvel and started writing it, I think. Which is ironic. The thing that made Doom Patrol really special, especially for DC. If you ever, we've touched a few DC stories, there's not much character work or anything, personality going on. And here's the best highlight of it, but you do get a little bit of it, in that the Doom Patrol always talk smack to each other. They were the first superheroes to really do that, especially in DC. So you'll see the heroes are Negative Man, whose power is he basically got irradiated and he's covered in bandages, but I think for 15 seconds he's able to release an antibody out of his body.
Out of his
which is
body?
Yeah, body.
Yeah. But he has to constantly be covered in these radiated bandages.
Or else,
He can never take
or
them
else his radiation kills people around him.
Huh.
The negative man that comes out of him is basically he can go through anything, but if it doesn't return to back to him in 15 seconds, the person Negative Man dies.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's a more interesting power than I picked up from this.
Robot Man is just a brain in a robot body.
Yes.
And he's basically like a Ben Grimm kind of character where he's just like, my whole life really sucks.
Yeah, I noticed when he's You two always get the nice stuff, and I'm just stuck in a metal body.
And the way that too, like, they're always just calling him like Tin Head and stuff. I'm like, they're really rude to this guy. I don't think he chose this life. If anything, this is Fantastic Four so far. You have Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm.
Yeah, Negative Man. I love his power side. It's very unique. That's what I think we should strive to do in a superhero power. It has built-in limitations and stuff like that. Larry himself is a fucking asshole. He can fucking die.
Yes.
Road Man for life.
Robot Man's the best, and that's why every time the
Robot
Doom
Man,
Patrol
Robot
gets
Man.
killed, Robot Man's the only one who stays around.
Yeah, everyone knows. So, Doom Patrol notorious for dying. They died at the end of the series, and they stayed dead for decades. Road Man's the only one to survive because he's a robot. All you need is his brain to keep him alive.
Yeah.
And it was a franchise that really kind of barely existed until my boy Grant Morrison took over and made it a bizarre Dadaist masterpiece.
Yeah, and one thing Grant Morrison did, which was I've never read a series, but it always sounds weird to me, is the leader of the Doom Patrol is the Chief, who's the biggest ripoff from X-Men in terms of X-Men. Professor X is a ripoff of the Chief because the Chief was a man in a wheelchair who brought them together, and he basically fixed all the different members of the team up and found a way around their powers, killing other people. So Professor X is straight up above that. He found Cyclops, he gave him his fucking glasses, he's in a wheelchair. It's just a straight up rip-off of the Chief. But
except Professor X has powers himself, whereas this guy is just a guy, right?
Yeah, but the Chief is so he's just a guy, but he is like the leader of the team because he's the guy who thinks everything up. And Elastigirl is
spoilers for. Oh, I thought you were gonna go ahead and talk about.
Spoilers. Grant Morrison makes him a villain, which I always hated conceptually. Wow. And Brian's just saying, oh, but then he'll be too similar to Professor X, which is ironic because now Professor X is a villain too. So now you have basically like both Chief and Professor X. So, like, you can't just have a moral compass for a team. You have to make them. You have to make them somebody the team has to rebel against and
Secretly
move past.
I heard something about Cyclops like killing Professor X or something.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch.
That's why.
It's a whole bunch of shit, but like the thing is, both the Chief and Professor X were like moral arbiters for the team, and I guess writers have trouble writing that, so they just make them some character they have to overcome instead. Yeah.
And then rounding out the team, we have Elastigirl, who she can stretch and stuff, but
This is
more
the
so.
Fantastic Four.
But more so, she really grows big and small and stretches. So like Reed Richards just stretches. She usually more so is like she's like a combination of like Ant-Man, Giant Man, and Mr. Fantastic.
Like a Reed Richards.
Yeah,
and I think Grant Morrison. I don't know if one of the modern writers made her so like she's the most normal one of the team. That's one of the things about the Doom Patrol is they're all freaks and everyone hates them. Aside of the superhero shenanigans, but Elastigirl was the only one that could pass for normal. But in like modern editions now, like her thing is that she like she's so elastic that she basically melts.
That's a Jeff Johns, Keith Giffen concept. Yeah, but the main thing that I want to say about Elastigirl, there is a backup in the back of this book that's a solo Elastigirl story that we're not going to cover, but Elastigirl is like leagues better than any woman character at the time.
Yeah, I said this is my favorite like DC book. Like Elastigirl is easily my favorite superhero at this time. Like nothing in Marvel compared to
absolutely nothing in Marvel compares and nothing in DC compares because she actually like goes on solo adventures, which I can't think of any character aside from maybe Black Canary that had
Wonder Woman.
Oh, and Wonder Woman. Yeah, but I mean like part of like a
the Silver Age revival. Like,
yeah,
the Iron being introduced and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And also Wonder Woman at this time, she was the writer of Wonder Woman. My bullshit trivia. He was really phoning in this time and making Wonder Woman fight like giant eggs and spacemen. So Elastigirl is like the most high effort female content.
And also when it comes to not in this book, but the one thing I want to say about Elastigirl too is when a love interest is introduced to her, he like shows up as like this love interest, and she very frequently like puts him in his place, and he's like, "Come away with me," and she's like, "No, you suck. You have to like be a better person." And for like the mid 60s, that's like crazy to read, of having like this woman be like, "No, fuck you. You're being like misogynistic."
Yeah, woman putting a man in his place continually.
Yeah. So I have a very deep attachment to Rita Farr, Elastigirl, but let's get into the animal, vegetable, mineral menace.
A story that me and Ryan didn't forget about at all.
All matter is divided into 3 categories, but the lines of separation are not always clear and strong. When one man learns to hurdle these biological barriers, his power looms not only limitless but dangerous, and the Doom Patrol suddenly finds itself confronted by the man who becomes the animal, vegetable, mineral menace. Like we all know, 3 states of matter: animal, vegetable, and mineral.
I think that is a phrase though.
Really?
Like
Animal,
I've heard it
vegetable,
like when people play, like 20 questions.
Yeah.
Like I've heard in like media people play that game by saying like, is it an animal, a vegetable, or a mineral? Which like there are more things than that, but I think that is like a phrase from
It's like a
the-
categorization.
Yeah,
but, like,
it has to be because it's just so weird. Vegetable?
Yeah, I didn't know that until like I didn't know that when I first read this book, but I've heard it since then. I was like, oh, I guess that's not just like a weird thing they picked for this guy.
I tried to Google animal, vegetable, mineral just now, and animal, vegetable, mineral man was the first thing that popped up.
Okay, maybe it's not a big
and,
phrase.
and there's a TV show apparently from the 50s called Animal, Vegetable, Mineral ? And it's a game show where you have to guess.
Okay,
So-
so maybe I guess
That's
that
probably
must be
where
it.
it's from.
And it might be, by the way, this is even the 60s, so maybe that's how they, like...
Yeah, this is like pretty.
Cool
this is like
Jeopardy
1960. Yeah, this is 1964. So
Yeah,
that's like
Don't you
pretty.
mean,
close.
isn't there like a roulette man or something?
That might have been more of a term of phrase back then than it is now.
Yeah.
What is Jeopardy, man? Anyway,
So anyway, it starts with like the action splash page that opens of they're fighting this big like
In
goo
media res,
monster.
whatever you call it, where,
Yeah.
where you jump ahead to what's going to happen later.
Yeah, it's they're fighting this big goo monster who's melting through a big block of ice, and Roboman's like, "Wowee! This paramecium is turning into sulfur." And Chief's like, "Watch out! If he touches you, we'll all explode." And then it cuts back that there's a plane where this little guy, this like regular man.
It's just so weird reading
fucking
this.
weird.
Without context.
So Dr. Larson, who Larson is the name of the paramecium monster. What? He's sitting in a plane and he's like being reminded to fasten his seatbelts, and all of a sudden the what are they even the radioactive energy part of Negative Man.
Just call him. I always call it an antibody. Usually, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay,
That's
yeah,
what they call him
It's just
later.
Negative Man.
They call him Negative Man here, but just for less confusion between the Negative Man, the person, Negative Man, the actual Negative Man.
Yeah.
They just call him the antibody.
So his antibody swoops through the wall of the plane, grabs Dr. Larson, phases through the wall, and brings him right
Can
down.
it if it grabs guys, can't phase them through walls too? I guess.
I think it does. I think that is the thing it does, because that's how.
I also like the idea of him opening the window and depressurizing the plane just to bring this guy down.
It's just so weird that like they do that.
That they capture him for show.
Yeah, this is obviously weird, but comics do this weird thing all the time. They can't just have. I guess it's to open the story on the big like. Note.
Yeah, we're like, whoa, what's this?
Maybe this is
guy?
why I assumed they were villains immediately. Because like with a name like Doom Patrol, and then they're kidnapping this man out of a plane. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
And one thing too that I think they're doing is because this is still so early in the Doom Patrol's history, I think they're just looking for an excuse to immediately showcase the team's
Oh yes,
powers.
that is also
Yeah,
definitely. They didn't have
that's what
recap pages, so
Yeah.
if this is your first Doom Patrol comic, you want to have immediately show which character is which.
Yeah. So Negative Man swoops him from the plane, grabs him, drops him into Elastigirl's arms, who grows really big, and brings him up to a higher floor where he is picked up by Robot Man with his electromagnetic boots, walking straight up the building. And then they drop him in to meet the chief in this like fancy restaurant up on the, like the 100th floor or whatever. And apparently the chief is this doctor's old friend, and he says, "Welcome, Sven. When you wrote to say you were coming to America, you mentioned you wanted to meet the Doom Patrol, so we staged this huge elaborate thing for you."
Yep, and thankfully he's not like scarred or terrified. He's like, amazing. They're positively astounding.
he was just being dangled off a skyscraper.
We don't know if he's Scott, but maybe this is what really sets off.
Yeah.
Following events.
And he exposits, it cuts forward and exposits that this is one of the chief's old students when he taught at Stockholm University. And he has a big discovery that he's been working on that he wants to show the Doom Patrol.
He's having like a public lecture tomorrow.
Yeah. So if you saw Spider-Man 2, you know where this is going to go.
Yeah. Or if you've ever read a comic book with a scientist in
Yeah,
it.
but whenever you see like any like random scientist show up and he's just, I'm going to show you guys something, you know what's happening.
It's bad.
Yeah, every time there's a scientist in like an old age comic, it's always they're about to turn themselves into something awful.
Yeah. So he brings them to his giant sci-fi lab that he has developed a way to create life artificially using a giant lightning synthesizer.
He's like primordial soup. It was amino acids with lightning. I made amino acids, and he says one of these lines made me laugh. It was like, "I am bombarding this vat filled with amino acids, the same which I assume existed on Earth nearly 3 billion years ago." I'm like, great assumption.
One thing that you guys might laugh at me for this, but one thing that I like about a book like the Doom Patrol is that they lean into the science part of science fiction, where it's not just like there's aliens here. Like they actually like use some science terminology when they talk about like, radioactivity, and when they do different elements, they actually talk about like sulfur will react to metal in this way. And, like, I always kind of eat that stuff up, even if it's, like, in a dumb thing. Like, I like it better than just, like, this is a magic ray gun that does science.
Yeah. Hard science is always way more interesting than just, like, loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Just magic using science name, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially at the time, like, that, to me, this reads like a more science-based book than a lot of other, like, Batman going to the fifth dimension kind of thing.
So this guy he slips off of the thing into his own experiment. Like
I slipped as he's pointing.
Yeah. And then I just want to say, for Sly's sake, Negative Man shoots out his antibody, and he says, "Get him out of there, Negative Man."
Yes, the antibody's called Negative Man. That's what I wanted to clarify for the sake of readers, so the readers are not like going back and forth between which Negative Man the person.
Also, he goes the speed of light. How does he not catch this guy? What the hell?
Because he's I don't know. I guess it took Chief too long to say it.
Well, he doesn't immediately launch him. He has to think about it.
No, I may have talked to Phil about how dumb almost this entire comic is based on the fact that he can do things at the speed of light. It's like everything Negative Man wants done should be done. Speed of light's very fast.
Earlier, when we introduced the character, we established that Larry Traynor is an asshole, so I think he lets this guy fall in on purpose because he thinks it'd be funny. So, before the speed of light figure can reach the vat, Larson
He was in the vat at that rate.
Larson turns into this giant paramecium, millions of times its original size. Just like the simplest animal forms on Earth, I assume, 3 billion years ago.
It looks like a furry tongue walking around kind of thing.
I like a lot of the design choices
Yeah, me
that
too.
he takes.
I thought it was a cool monster.
Yeah, throughout this whole book, like not just in this issue, but I always thought the Doom Patrol was a lot more visually interesting than like Superman fighting a guy that looks like Superman but with a T on his shirt.
Or green skin or whatever. Or
Yeah.
Or white skin Bizarro Superman, which you still want to have us read.
Yeah. So now the cops come in and they immediately start shooting at this paramecium, and the chief says, "No, that giant paramecium is what remains of a great man. We must have a chance to bring him back." Which again is a little thing that I think the Doom Patrol does better, where space alien kind of thing, big sci-fi monster shows up, where usually Superman would just throw him into the sun or whatever. But he's like, no, there's a person in here. We should try to save him.
Yeah, that's another reason why it's funny that Chief becomes a villain, because Chief was like the most moral person in comic books at this time, I think.
So Chief he's trying to stop them, and the cops are like, "Can we please kill this thing?" And he's like, "No." So Negative Man grabs Robot Man a tank of liquid oxygen and he freezes it. So and the chief's like, if you freeze bacteria, it doesn't kill them. It just puts them in a state of hibernation. But this monster turns into this mass of sulfur like we saw on the front page. And it melts all the ice, and now it's changed from living to non-living matter. But quick, Rita, get big enough so that you could catch this sulfur.
Just hold him.
Yeah, she's got gloves on.
And she grabs him like a little doll.
Yeah, she picks him up like a little doll, and it turns into a big creeping ivy that's moving with incredible speed and wraps around her, starting to choke her. But then she shrinks down small.
She goes through the forest that is this man now.
To get to the forest, which again, I think that this is very visually fun to read.
Also, like I always say, there's a sequence of events here, so it's not just a lot of modern comics where two characters run to each other, fight happens, and then one character loses. Like you see him reacting to everything, and Chief is like, "Oh, we have to change back to this now." So there's a back and forth here, which I like.
Yeah, that showcases their powers.
Yes.
And then he turns into a bird and flies away. And Chief goes, "Good grief, it changed into a bird and flew off. You weren't far from it before, Cliff, when you asked, is it animal, vegetable, or mineral? It's all three."
Oh my god, how can this
dun.
be? The
All
game
three
show's
states.
broken.
And then, I really like this part because Negative Man flies to the guy's lab, steals all his research, and he's like, "Look, in all his notes, he said he was going to do this a month ago, and he wanted to turn into a big monster supervillain." So he didn't trip.
And then Robot Man's like, "You knew, there's no accent. Like the guy's a piece of shit." I tried to defend him now with the Chief, and Larry's like, "Shut the fuck up, Robot Man." And
And Chief's like, "Why would he do this? He was a brilliant mind. What will he do with this power?" And because when I first read it, I was like, he slipped. That's such a dumb catalyst to this issue.
Yeah.
And then they're like, nah, he jumped in on purpose.
It's even stupider though because he pretends to slip. Why have the cover story? Like,
Why even bring everyone else there to watch you fall in? Why not just do it?
Because Chief didn't want to kill him because he thought he was a hopeless victim. But now maybe Chief wants to do something. Wants to fuck his shit up now.
But then why leave your notes around?
Because he's an idiot. But like just because he's an idiot means it's not. It's not plausible. You'll think of a cover story.
Yeah. So then we get some cool transformations where it's a big dinosaur rampaging through the city. They start spraying it with a hose, like a high pressure
I love that.
hose.
They're like, the hose will stop him. It's a dinosaur.
And he turns into a sponge and absorbs everything.
I love
the
that
water
too.
back at
Yeah,
them.
he becomes a sponge and sprays them with hose.
Yeah. Negative Man like wrings out all the sponge and then he turns into lead, which traps radiation. So he captures Negative Man. Robot Man runs in, starts punching him a bunch, and then as soon as Robot Man has him in a grip, he turns into a dandelion and all his seeds blow away and he escapes again.
And they also abbreviation call him AVM Man. It's the same thing every time.
That's where I got to the point where I'm like, couldn't you just have a different name?
You should just call him AVM if he wanted this fucking.
Or just
name.
anything. Because he
Yeah.
he does anything he wants, pretty much.
Yeah, Matter Man.
Then
Metamorpho.
he escapes into the subway and he turns into a giant tarantula and he like just grabs trains. But Robot Man uses his robot body to attach the tarantula's legs to the third rail and electrocutes him. But he turns into a swarm of gnats so that he could crawl into Robot Man's brain and turn it off. And then Robot Man realizes that that's his only living part, so he starts flipping out.
Yeah. I like the progress because he's like, oh, they're coming for me. Oh, you think Beast can hear me? And she's like, God damn it, get out of here! Like they're gonna go into your brain. And then he's like, oh my god, my brain! And he starts freaking out.
Yeah, as the full terror becomes clear, blind panic seizes Cliff. Get away from me! And he runs while he's like banging himself on the head.
Yeah, and he's like, Chief says, you can't save yourself. Only Negative Man can. And Negative Man's antibody goes and wraps around Robot Man's head to seal his head off from all the bugs.
Yeah, and again, like this is like you said, there's a progression of events that utilizes all their powers really well.
Yes,
and I find that to be like we talked about on our Infinite Crisis episode, how it's a lot of people just fighting because they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole time the Chief is like, what is his motive? Think. Why would he do this? Like, why would he try to kill you? And then he goes, he still really believes that I stole his invention that they mentioned earlier that I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention motivation because he said when he first showed up, when he first
yes, you're such a great teacher, and then the Chief was like, yeah, remember that invention that I didn't steal from you, but you think I did?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So apparently,
this story knows how to feed plot points better than we do. Or seed plot points.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's just like one sentence. I'd completely forgotten by the time I got here that was a thing.
The invention that he said he stole was an anti-decay ray that halts all changes in living cells. So he knows how much you all mean to me, so your deaths would be his revenge. But ironically, this device I built for pure research. I love it. It's a gun that he built for pure research.
Yeah.
This is every fucking scientist in DC. Like out of nowhere, I have the one thing we need to stop our enemy for his one story, and to never show up in any story ever again. I have the cure for like world hunger and all these other problems. They'll never show up again. But here I have it for his one story.
Yeah, I think this, based on his definition, I think this ray would stop aging.
I think so too. But I think if it stops changes in living cells,
freezes you probably.
Yeah, it's really weird because then it's like you can't digest, right?
But you would think that this is something that
you could take
this
breakthrough and apply it to maybe stopping aging cells, something like that. Like
no,
this is
guys,
not like
it's too powerful. This technology is not meant to be in the hands of humans.
You will use this to one enemy and lock away forever.
Yeah. So now he's turned into a big
Diamond
man that's just like, I guess, just walking around. So
and then Rita grabs him by his legs, like holds him up. So then he shoots at the tiger, trying to bite her face off.
Yeah, but then what do they do? Do they hit him with
shoot
the
him with the
shoot him with the ray, and the tiger turns around and then curls up like a dead spider, and it just freezes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they drop him back into this vat.
And they also mention, by the way, this was all according to Kakaiku because when he was Diamond Man, they couldn't use the gun on him because it stops matter in living cells. So they had to trick him to turn into a tiger and then zap him.
Yeah, and like Robot Man was like, he accused Chief of using Rita as live bait, and Chief's like, no, it was part of my plan to wait until he turns into a tiger or something that can actually hurt her, and then I'll zap him.
Yeah.
Like Diamond Man can't hurt her. Hard substance, whatever.
And then, so he drops him back into that vat, so he turns back into the guy, and Robot Man's like, you did it, Chief. Brought Larson back. His next change will be into a prison uniform. And the Chief says, I hope not, Cliff. He needs help. Mental care, not imprisonment. If he can be cured, that genius of his can do enormous good.
Which is mind-blowing for me, because you never saw this.
I was actually, that was the part I was like, that's pretty interesting.
That's very progressive.
Yeah, and throughout this book, we consistently see, because keep in mind, the Comics Code made it where you couldn't make authority figures evil, so, like, you couldn't have bad cops, you couldn't have bad politicians or anything, like, it was literally outlawed. So, having, like, the cops rush in and be like, let's kill him, and he's like, no, we have to take a humane approach. And in the end, he's like, let's not even imprison him, let's give him rehabilitation and therapy. Mm-hmm. That's more progressive than fucking Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah. That is pretty progressive. Yeah.
So
like even if the story was kind of mediocre, I think that there are hints of what made Doom Patrol a unique book.
Yeah, what you guys like about it, like the sequence of events, that how everyone has a unique power, and that the Chief is like a moral compass for the rest of the team. I can see that.
And if you guys want to know how Doom Patrol fits into, like, you know, like why they're a book that people remember, not only, like Sly said, is it shocking that their book got canceled so Arnold Drake killed the entire team, but in like 1968 or somewhere around there, but also Rita is the one who adopts Beast Boy, and that's his first appearance when his parents die.
And we might be revisiting Animal Vegetable Mineral Man 2 eventually, which will have Beast Boy appear as well. So we could see, if you're a fan of Teen Titans, you get to see Beast Boy definitely.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Beast Boy?
You don't know Beast Boy from the Teen Titans?
I never saw Teen Titans.
How do you not know Beast Boy? That's crazy.
That just felt being weird because most people know Beast Boy because of Teen Titans.
Sorry.
I mean, Beast Boy's not like a...
But like when the Teen Titans
big.
show came out, people were like, he's a name because of the anime cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's certainly a bigger name than like any of the Doom Patrol people. Though Robot Man is played by Brendan Fraser in the new show. That's pretty cool.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you should watch it in the show. It's
really
I haven't seen it yet, but Ryan says it's good.
I saw the first episode. It was really good. But anyway, so that's it. So that was Doom Patrol number 89, Animal Vegetable Mineral Man.
Wow, what a character. What a guy.
I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah. I can't wait to see him come back and be an arsonist and... like Sue Dibney comes back to life and he kills her again or something.
Oh no. So speaking of villains coming back and upping the stakes, our Patreon backers that make us read these things, you should give us more money because on for the Patreon drive, upgrading donors will get some fancy stuff, and there's also going to be a whole slew of extra bonuses. Like, I will be releasing the entire season 1 of my music blog, podcast versions of the first 9 posts that I've been writing over the last few months. And there's going to be giveaways and all sorts of great crossovers and really fun stuff. So you should join the Flying Machine Explorers Guild Facebook group to see all those updates as the month goes on, because it's going to be a whole month of great, fun Patreon content.
Yep, and share the posts if you enjoy the stuff, and let people know about us.
Yeah, because that's how we grow, and
review us if you haven't on iTunes, please.
Oh yeah.
We also grow by using our elastic powers to get people to become Big Boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think there's more people in comic book that have fire powers or rubber band powers?
Rubber band powers,
sure.
sure.
Rubber band powers, for sure.
There were like 4 in Infinite Crisis that were all fire that we read.
Elastigirl is not the only member of Doom Patrol that had elastic powers. On this particular version of the team. Later on, what's her name? Madame Rouge introduced another one.
She's a villain. She's from the Brotherhood of Evil, which is not the same as Stan Lee's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, wait, I know the Brotherhood of Evil. Apparently I don't.
Toad, right?
But yeah, but Madame Rouge,
Madame
Rouge quits the Brotherhood of Evil and joins Doom Patrol. So for our point, you had 2 literal elastic members on the same team. Both elastic women, by the way.
It's such a weird power, I feel like, to go to. Like, it's cool, but it's like fire seems like an easier one to do.
I feel like there's more people that have fire.
No, not comic books.
No. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do a Patreon over all the fire heroes and villains.
Oh my god.
Who knows?
20-part Patreon.
Okay. But anyway, thank you as always, for everything that you do for us, your humble Divisive Issues hosts. I've been Ryan.
I've been Sly.
I've been Phil.
I've been Daryl.